So I
We're
finally
live.
realized- we forgot to leave silence there, both of us.
Great. How long have we been doing this show for?
Too long. So, we're back again to talk about Star Wars, Nathan.
I know. Oh God, we're always here to talk about Star Wars, aren't we? We're here to talk about Dave Filoni's latest adventure in the Star Wars world, back to his animated roots.
Star Wars Resistance.
Ba-dum-bum. Great. We're here to talk about... We tricked everyone. We told everyone we're doing a Bad Batch episode. Surprise! It's Resistance, baby. We tricked everyone. I've seen the first season. Kyle's not seen any of it. That's what we're talking about today.
No, we're here to talk about the Bad Batch.
Those guys from the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars?
The very same. They got an entire show. Can you believe it?
Honestly, I can't.
Honestly, me neither.
I've watched the entire thing and I can't believe they've got their own show.
It's a weird show.
Do you remember years ago now, back when the Clone Wars was cancelled, but they kind of released the previs for the episodes that weren't finished, and the Bad Batch was one of them?
I do, vaguely, yes.
They released them in StarWars.com way back when, and I don't know if I watched full episodes or not, but I definitely remember the Bad Batch Clone Force 99 as a concept. And I thought, wow, that's so weird. It felt like one of those things a show that was dying would do to kind of spice things up a bit.
Uh-huh.
And it never really grasped me. I don't know. I didn't care about it. And it was one of those things where, it's not an episode that I'm particularly excited to see, or it's an episode that I'm sad that they never finished. I didn't care.
It's a very gimmicky idea of these clones that are specifically trained or specifically engineered to be good at a specific thing.
Yes, for some reason.
Yes.
Because I thought they were like defectives at first. Apparently not.
They're called 99 because we all remember, of course, 99.
The greatest clone in the Army of the Republic.
Of course.
So
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, 99. Then it was announced after their very strange appearance in the Clone Wars, they're getting their own show, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, they put an announcement out for you on Twitter.
Yes,
they said, Kyle, the Bad Batch is getting their own show. And everyone was like,
so
wow.
Confused.
I was like, wow, who's
I
Kyle?
felt really called out.
I mean, I was quite jealous, frankly. I wish they'd messaged me. And I think everyone was a bit stunted because the Clone Wars ended so perfectly.
It did, yeah. We've talked about it. It was the Siege of Mandalore was fantastic. You can listen to us gloat about it for almost a full hour of a 2-hour podcast.
Yes, exactly. So that ended, and everyone loved the Clone Wars, and everyone was very happy that the Clone Wars was coming back. But despite how much everyone loved the Clone Wars, everyone was still very confused as to why there was a sequel to the Clone Wars happening with genetically altered clones. Batch. Yes.
You know,
do you think it was worth it, Kyle?
Okay, this is a very strange show. Just, I don't mean like the actual watching of it, I just mean conceptually it's a very strange show.
Yes.
My main question going into it was how are they going to make the Bad Batch interesting, compelling characters across a whole show? And the answer is, they don't.
Interesting.
There's just, there's parts of this show that I really like, but almost everything I like about this show doesn't involve the Bad Batch. Like, I feel like the show is dragged down by being tied to this group of characters. If you were exploring the same time period with a more compelling character, like if they adapted the Ahsoka novels, or they did a spin-off show about Rex, the show would have a lot more legs to it, because those are characters with a lot more, interesting stuff going on. Like, the gimmick of the Bad Batch is that they all have their thing, and across the whole show, none of them really expand beyond their thing. Tech is smart, Wrecker is big and dumb, Hunter's daddy, Echo is also there. That's their characters.
Yeah.
And they never really change.
Crosshair the exception.
Crosshair is probably the most interesting one of them because he's evil.
Yes.
And I like Omega.
We like Omega. Would you have watched a show about Ryloth in this time period with General Syndulla?
I wouldn't have watched the whole show about it, no.
Okay, interesting.
I like the 2 episodes we got, but General Syndulla, he's never been overly interesting to me. I like Hera. I'm not so keen on Cham.
The reason I say it is because I thought those episodes were great. However, I thought when the Bad Batch showed up, I thought that was probably the time they were best utilised in the entire show. They're just supposed to be a cool reference. They're supposed to show up like, they're supposed to be like Republic Commandos. They show up and you go, oh, that's really cool. They're the Republic Commandos from that thing that people know. That's what the Bad Batch should be.
I said this at the start of the show to you, personally. I said that I think this story and these characters would have worked much better as a video game. I don't know, you didn't agree with me at the time. I don't know how you feel about that now.
You were right.
Okay, good.
So
Like, the entire structure of their team is like a squad-based shooter, where you've got the leader and the tech guy and the big guy, and you can imagine going through in like an FPS game and going through the missions that they go through in this. I feel like that would have worked way better, and I feel like it's the first time I've ever really felt that about a show where I think this would actually be better as a game.
Who's your most favourite member of the team and who was your least favourite member of the team?
Okay, my favourite is probably Hunter, because at least he has like something going on beyond his stereotype. Like, he is just Rambo, that's his whole thing, he's Rambo clone.
Yeah.
But you know, he has his dad thing going on,
Which
so
they just
whatever.
right out from The Mandalorian.
Yes. And this show is take the Mandalorian and split the Mandalorian into 4 guys. That's what the show is.
Yeah. Well, I would argue even less than that.
Yeah. My least favourite is Echo, because there's no reason for him to be there. He never justifies his existence on the team.
Echo feels like that was a plan they had from back before the show was cancelled. And then when it came to giving the Bad Batch their own show, they were just kind of stuck with that creative decision. Because I noticed this, see in the last couple of episodes when they're on Camino,
He barely says a word.
he doesn't barely say a word. He has no dialogue.
I think I remember having one line at some point when they were in the tunnels, I think.
It surely must have been part 1, because I remember watching part 2 being like, Christ, Echo doesn't speak. Because they get onto the platform with the Marauder at the end when they're with Crosshair and everything, they're getting ready to leave, and I notice Echo, and I'm like, what, where have you been?
Well, it's weird too, because that's all about, they keep going into the origin of the Bad Batch and how Omega was there, but Echo isn't really a part of that. He joined the squad later, so he has no
Echo's a reg.
emotional attachment to this.
Yeah, exactly. I love Echo in the Clone Wars as an ARC trooper and as a shiny and, you know, as a cadet, and he was great in the Clone Wars. He just isn't a member of the Bad Batch, though. He should be with Rex doing Rex things.
Like, the one time I found Echo interesting in the show was when Rex was there and Echo became the voice of, we should go and join the Resistance.
Exactly.
That was the only time where he had anything to do. Because even on a team build kind of level, he doubles up with tech as another tech guy.
Yes, he should have been a medic.
Yes, they need a medic. They don't have a medic.
I think Omega's trying to be that.
Omega has her own thing going on with, like, her bow and all this, so...
I never understood the bow.
The bow she stole from a slaver.
I know, I'm like, why? It feels like it's meant for a toy, you know? It's like Ezra Bridger's slingshot in the first season of the Clone Wars. Rebels, sorry.
We've talked a lot and we haven't even explained the basic plot yet.
We're doing full spoilers here, but okay.
Full spoilers. Let's give the overview. It's set directly after Revenge of the Sith. It follows a squad of clone troopers after Order 66 who, for specific reasons, aren't activated by the brain chips other than one of them. And they find another clone who's the last clone, or I don't know what exactly, they didn't really go into it that much, but she's some sort of special clone, and they take her away from Camino, and they do random shit for 16 episodes, and then they come back to Camino again.
Yeah.
That's it, that's the plot of the show.
That's the plot of the show. There's some episodes better than others. Some episodes they're just dancing around the nightclub and stealing Rancor that would be in Jabba's palace for Return of the Jedi.
Oh, this is Cameos the show, as I've said many times while watching it. Almost every single episode is like, you remember this character from Star Wars, don't you? It's Cut, the clone trooper who ran away. Who
deserted and got married. Yeah.
It's the Rancor. It's Cham Syndulla and Hera. It's baby Kanan, voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr., and it's really distracting.
It's super distracting. I appreciate the fan service, but from a creative level, I think I wouldn't have done it. But no, yeah, I agree. I give quite a bit of it a pass, because I think that this show is like fleshing out this era in a way that hasn't really been done.
Yes, and that's the part of the show that I find interesting.
Yes.
Is seeing the very beginnings of the Empire and how the transition from clones to stormtroopers took place and how the Empire took over daily life and all this. That's the interesting part of the show.
That's interesting. I do not care about Sid the Lizard in her nightclub.
I don't care about the Bad Batch and their mercenary work.
Nor I, however, I did like them getting involved in the Resistance briefly. The rebellion, I guess, the founding days of it. Even though they weren't a part of it, they just kind of aided the people who were going to be founding members of the rebellion.
Very briefly, yeah.
Very briefly. I would have liked it if they'd stayed more in touch with that sort of thing, fighting the Empire. I liked when they rescued Gregor for Rex. You know, I liked when they were doing stuff for people who were part of the bigger picture. But when they were just stealing a Rancor, or when they were just helping the two sisters that helped Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, remember they were in the show?
Yep, you remember those characters?
Remember those characters?
That was also the episode where they brought back battle droids.
Oh, in that episode they actually were helping do some rebellion stuff accidentally because the two sisters were there for working with Rex, I think.
They were working for Rex.
But that's not why they were there. The Bad Batch bumped into them on chance.
Yes.
Like, that's one of the episodes maybe following.
There's an episode where they get chased around town by Fennec Shand. Do you remember Fennec Shand?
From the hit Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, Season 1 and Season 2.
Soon to be appearing in the Book of Boba Fett.
Streaming this Christmas on Disney Plus. Yeah. Again, after watching it, I'll say I liked it, but I'm still bloody perplexed as to why they thought this was the direction. It might have been a mixture of people love the Clone Wars, let's continue with the clones, and a mixture of we need to flesh out this time period, so let's do both at the same time.
I can see that element of it. I find it strange that they anchored it on this group of characters. That's really, I feel like we're going to come back to that point a lot, but it's just, they're just not that compelling. They're just not that interesting. They're just a group of dudes. I mean, D. Bradley Baker, obviously amazing, and they all sound like different characters, and it blows me away.
Fantastic. He is a menace of voice acting. He must have get paid the entire show budget.
I hope so. I mean, he is the entire show.
He is the entire show. It's like if he was the creator of this show, people would just call it a vanity project. It is amazing that he's going to get work forever. But you're right that it's so strange. It's so strange that they decided that this is who they wanted to base the show around. And again, we will say that many times probably. Maybe you can fill in my memory here, Kyle, from the Star Wars fan base a couple of years ago before the Clone Wars' final season was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Bad Batch one of those things that people were excited to see from the never released Clone Wars episodes?
I don't think so. I mean, people were much more excited for the other non-released episodes. Like, obviously, the resolution of Ventress's story was one of the original planned episode
there was
arcs.
an episode where Anakin and Obi-Wan steal a massive kyber crystal.
Yep. That was kind of teasing the Death Star type stuff.
Yeah.
There was... I don't know if... I mean, we knew Siege of Mandalore was a thing. I don't know if that got released as previs, though, did it?
No, Siege of Mandalore was one of the things that they made brand new for this season. It was a thing that has been referenced in Rebels and stuff prior to this season, but I don't know if back when Cartoon Network and before Disney bought Star Wars, I don't know if that had actually been a thing yet.
The other previous one was the early version of the Martez Sisters episodes.
Was it? I thought it was one with Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, there was one where Boba Fett drills Cad Bane as well. All of these things people were more excited for than the Bad Batch episodes.
Okay, because I'm just wondering here if maybe this is a bunch of decisions that they're like holdovers from 8 or 9 years ago. Because it is strange, but maybe if all these years ago people really wanted to see the Bad Batch and then they put this show obviously into production, probably prior to the last season of the Clone Wars coming out.
Mm-hmm.
These were all decisions that were made prior to the Bad Batch episodes being officially finished, and then when they're officially finished and are released, people then go, oh, that's all they are?
I mean, from a purely cynical business perspective, I can see that they would think, look at these clones, wouldn't they make good toys to sell?
Yeah. I don't even see many Bad Batch toys, though. I see the hot toys, but they're too expensive for kids.
They released a Lego set of their ship, which is, I must say, really boring as a ship to sing goes. It's just one of the...
It's like a Republic shuttle, but a bit more tactical.
It's just a shuttle, but a bit fancier. Yeah, it's boring.
Definitely.
That's just, a lot of the show is, just I mean, we can talk about some specifics. We should, instead of just dancing around. I like Omega. I don't know what's going on with her, but she's a fun character. She's a good child character, which is hard to do.
Very hard to do, yeah. She won me over as well. Did you not say you found her irritating at first, or was that someone else?
I did find her irritating at first. She did grow on me.
I bought into Omega quite early in the show. I can tell you the character that I went 0 to nearly 100 on, though, over the course of the season. Crosshair. I thought Crosshair was so bloody boring in the Clone Wars episodes. I thought he was the least interesting character. I even thought at the start of this show he was pretty not interesting. See, when he shaves his head, he does a Captain Sisko from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. When he shaves his head, he gets 1,000,000% better.
When he goes full villain.
Villain.
The fun thing about Crosshair too is even in that original Clone Wars episode, he just speaks like a villain. He has a villain voice.
Yeah.
So you can kind of predict it, but I mean, I did like him in that original episode just because I think he's the coolest one in terms of all the cool trick shot stuff he does. Like, I remember in the original Clone Wars episode, he shoots up a bunch of, like, mirrors and then kills 50 robots with one shot.
Yeah.
And then this one, in the last couple of episodes, he kills all 4 of those stormtroopers with one bullet. And I find stuff like that really cool.
Trick shots were cool. I just don't think I think because Anakin and Rex were there, I was just too busy focusing on them. But I wasn't big on Crosshair. I think his hair looked stupid. And then he got rid of the hair, and that was a lot better. I still like Hunter, and it might just be because they're stealing the Mandalorian's, father-parent aspect with the child. But you know what? It works different enough for me to not have a problem with it. Then I probably like Tech, then Wrecker, and then who cares about Echo in this show?
Yeah.
I feel so bad for Echo. I mean, it's not like an actor's losing work; it's the same bloody voice actor. You don't even need to worry about getting rid of him because, oh my god, we're going to be putting someone out of work. No, you're not.
He voices every other character in the show. I still think he should have been voicing Omega as well.
Oh god, I think that would have sounded like Freddie Prinze Jr. again.
I think he could pull it off if you heard his range. Oh my gosh.
I would have been hesitant for that. I think the person they got for Omega, I can't remember her name. I think she's in her late 20s or something. She's significantly younger than Dee Bradley Baker. But I think she's also from New Zealand, and I think she does a wonderful job. Also, Dee Bradley Baker's not from New Zealand, is he?
No, he's American.
I was thinking of Tamora Morrison when I said also.
Yes.
Think you'll ever see her and Tamora Morrison together in live action?
That would be strange.
Given that they're supposed to be the exact same age.
I think if anything comes out of this show in the long run, it is Omega. I feel like that's a character that they're setting up for big things in the universe. I
wouldn't be surprised if she shows up in the Ahsoka show.
I wouldn't be shocked either.
Because this will be Dave Filoni's crown, and it'll be Ahsoka, and I'm going to say, I keep wanting to say Ahsoka. They'll have Ahsoka in it, they'll have Sabine Wren in it, and then they'll have Omega in it, and they'll have Thrawn in it, and it will be everything that Dave Filoni has ever pioneered in Star Wars animation, and 3 of those 4 are original characters of his, obviously Thrawn being a Timothy Zahn creation. I think that I would not be surprised if Omega showed up at all, and my god, I would love if Rex showed up. But Tamara Morrison would have to play Rex. I don't think Omega and Boba can ever be together, because they're supposed to be the exact same age, and they just look like there's a 30-year age gap in there with the actors. But I could quite easily see Tamara Morrison showing up as Rex, because he's had the accelerated aging, so the age gap would make sense.
I mean, they set problem 1, major problem with this show is the Bad Batch and boring. Problem 2 is you keep waiting for the plot to happen, and it just never does. And obviously they're trying to do episodic stories where each episode they go and have a different adventure, and that's all well and good, but it's not like they started with that premise. Like in TNG, every episode is a different adventure, and it's all loosely coherent, but each episode is an individual story, right?
Yes.
With just the same characters.
Also, in shows like TNG, you're not looking for an overarching story.
Exactly.
In this show, because you know what happened with Rebels, I'm not talking about in world continuity, but in show production continuity, we've had Rebels, we have had the last season of the Clone Wars, we had some stuff in the Clone Wars, even though that show was specifically told out of order, which is something they've never done again. I don't think they will do again. People are expecting one ongoing story, And when you're just
actually, Clone Wars is very episodic. It's just episodic in arcs.
Oh, yes, but what I mean is you're looking for one ongoing story. And in the Clone Wars, you're dipping about years at a time. You're going back and forward. And I think that
it's an anthology series almost. Yeah.
Yes, but I don't think they're ever going to do that again, because the way Rebels was constructed was highly successful. And then I think the way the last season of Clone Wars went was also successful. Even then, The Mandalorian kind of took weeks out to do nothing. But I
mean, this show is a very heavily Mandalorian influence more than anything else.
I think that when you're making a show to binge watch, you can do episodes where they go off and do nothing for a week, because you're just clicking through them anyway. But when you're waiting a week between episodes, if you wait a week and then an episode is nothing, so you feel that you're effectively waiting 2 weeks to get to the next plot point, that can be highly unsatisfying for viewers, myself included.
That would be fine if it was supposed to be just an episodic show, but the established plot threads at the start of the show, and then just wait ages they don't even resolve any of those by the end of season 1, really. Like, we still don't know why Omega's special and why everyone wants the kidnapper. That was never actually fully established in this season.
Everyone's going full in on Grogu and Palpatine and Snoke. Everyone's going online. A lot of people were thinking that this show is going to be the show that tries to repair the sequel trilogy the way the Clone Wars repaired the prequel trilogy.
Well, that was my thought when you see that they kidnap the one
Lama Su
scientist at the end. Yeah, and they said, we've got special plans. I'm like, okay, so she's going to start cloning Snoke, I guess. That's it, though. I don't know if they'd go further deeper in that.
I think that's where it might end up. It's not where I currently think they're at, because I thought, you're going to help with the clones. I thought that they were going to maybe before they go full in on stormtroopers, which I know they're already trying to introduce. Maybe they're wanting her to try and see if she can do anything with the clones they've currently got, and it'll make them less likely to go rogue.
All of the stuff with the Kaminoans in this show is so slow as well. There's Lama Su, and then there's the governor guy, and we keep cutting back to them and meeting rooms planning crap, and it's never really revealed what their plan is, and it doesn't matter at the end anyway, because why can't I pronounce this fucking name? Camino gets blown up at the end, so none of it really matters.
I think that is not a thread that has been dropped yet. I think the Prime Minister presumably was arrested, if not killed, but he obviously had a plan.
I assumed he was killed, yeah.
Right. I hope that Lama Su has plans, and I think I've said this somewhere before, if not on the podcast, I would love if they went full original Battlefront 2, and the Kaminoans make their own little mini Jango Fett clone army, and shoot them out with Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars uniforms, and there's a clone civil war. I would love it. I would love it, Kyle. I would love to see just that. Maybe that's the thing that officially, takes the clones out of the army altogether. Because I know they've brought in stormtroopers, but they've still got millions of clone troopers kicking about. When do they phase them out? Maybe something happens. Maybe their loyalties are put into the biggest question.
And again, they are setting, a lot of this is set up for future seasons. I assume they're trying to get all of the stuff on Ryloth with what's his name? The good nice boy clone.
Oh,
Hauser?
A weird name,
Hauser.
but great guy.
Yeah. All of the stuff with him is clearly setting up that clones being retired types plot line.
Yeah. It is wild how much the Empire officers that presumably were Republic officers doing the Clone Wars, they go
just
really
evil?
Anti-clone immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, evil as a whole, but I mean, I can guess there will be some arsehole sort types kind of always there in the Republic, and we just never saw them.
Grand Moff Tarkin was always there.
Yes, exactly. But these people are just springing up out of nowhere.
Like Yularen, why did he turn evil? He was perfectly fine in Clone Wars. They never really established that, but I
actually think they did quite
Empire era. He's evil.
I think they did quite a decent job establishing that, actually. Or not so much as establishing, it's just they try not to vilify him. He's just a career guy doing his job. He leaves the Navy, he becomes a colonel for the intelligence operations, and he's just doing his job. He's just following orders. Because when he shows up in Rebels, very quickly before we get into, executing rebels, when he shows up in the Clone Wars, he's just there to find out who a spy is. Or did I say the Clone Wars Rebels? He ain't, grinning and laughing maniacally and twirling his mustache and, yes, we've got them. Execute them now. Just a guy.
I still suppose it is still a transition to like an evil empire that enslaves people, though, you know?
Yes, but if you see like Tarkin do things and you see like Lauren do things, one's enjoying what's happening and the other one almost seems completely oblivious to what's happening. He's just doing his job like there was no change of power.
Anyway, back to Bad Batch, the show we're actually talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I don't know if we can fill a full hour with this, Nathan.
This show was pretty.
It was pretty, I'll give you that. It's a real nice looking show. The environmental art is fantastic.
I loved every shot with the Star Destroyers in orbit in Camino. Mm-hmm. I thought the Venators had never looked better. I kept waiting for them to do an overhead shot where you could see the red strip from the top. But I bet they haven't done that to those 3D models yet, so they've never fucking done it.
I love, too, that musically the Venators have become attached to that weird synthy music that played at the end of Siege of Mandalore to represent that they're evil now, you know?
Yeah. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I thought the shots of, like, there was one shot outside of the Venator that I loved, and it was raining, obviously, on Camino, but the shot was going in through the window onto looking at the Vice Admiral on the bridge. Rampart, I think his name was.
Rampart or Ransom or something like that.
Beautiful. And then there was also clone naval officers still serving. I don't know why I just assumed they would all be phased out. I was like, they'll still use them for infantry. But I thought the actual naval officers would all be humans.
The fact that the clones are there to destroy Camino is an interesting choice. I wouldn't have risked that personally, just in case.
Why are we all being transferred off ship, Admiral? Oh, no reason.
Because there's the shiny that comes up to him and he's like, all of the cities have been destroyed, and you can hear in his voice that he's kind of conflicted about it.
Yes,
which I thought was a nice touch.
I thought that was a nice touch.
You don't have the clones on this ship. That's a bad idea.
I thought that was a nice touch too. I'm waiting for the clones to bubble over. I'm waiting for it. I think they might never address the fact that they murdered their Jedi generals because the chip done that. I don't think they'll ever actually address the fact that it was the chip that made them do that, but I think that still, however, doesn't mean they cannot rise up against the Empire as is, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think there's a good chance that, maybe not all of them, but I think it might turn into like a Cardassia at the end of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where some of them just rebel and other ones cowering get executed.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be the thing that fully phases them out of the army altogether.
Again, I wish this was a show about Rex, because Rex has way more emotional attachment to all of the regular clone troopers than the Bad Batch do.
The Bad Batch had some level of contempt for the regs in the Clone Wars.
Yes. Like, you remember the end of Siege of Mandalore, where they will not kill a single clone trooper, Ahsoka and Rex. They make a whole thing about it. They make themselves way more difficult to escape because they refuse to kill any of them.
Yes.
And then in like the second episode of this show, they're just gunning them down. So they don't give a shit.
Well, these guys never really cared about the regs to begin with. I'm sure there was times where they were just stunning them. I'm sure there was times where they were just stunning them.
They're really inconsistent about it. Sometimes they stun them, sometimes they just shoot them.
Yeah.
They don't have much investment in it either way.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Whereas you can imagine Rex going through the whole, like, the same, like, Hauser plotline stuff and trying to convince him that, like, what's going on with the Empire is wrong, and there'd be more of an investment there. The Bad Batch just come in and do their job. They don't care that much about it.
Definitely. Do you have any thoughts for season 2?
I mean, there's loads of things that they've set up. They've still got Cad Bane hunting for them. We didn't even talk about Cad Bane yet. The more I talk, the more I realise there is some things we could talk about that are interesting.
I was getting ready to wind down and we could switch to a different topic and make this a half and half episode.
Do you have other topics?
Nothing. But I was hoping you could find something.
If we don't have other topics, we're stuck here. I don't know what to tell you.
The Rise of Skywalker was our longest episode. This can be our shortest.
There's things. Okay, so I mean, Cad Bane was fun to see. I like Cad Bane.
When was the last time we saw him? He never showed up in the final season of the Clone Wars. He was not in Rebels at all, to my memory.
I think it was season 4 of Clone Wars.
That's been years.
I think the last time we saw him was the episode where Obi-Wan goes undercover as another bounty hunter.
They fake he's dead.
Yeah. I think that was the last time we saw Cad Bane. Because at the end of that arc, he gets arrested, I think.
Does he?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. That's
or he escapes. I can't remember. But I think that's the last episode we saw him in.
I miss Zero the Hutt.
Zero did die.
Zero did die. Zero did. Didn't all of them, apart from Jabba, die?
Yes, Zero got killed by his girlfriend, and then the rest of them got killed by Darth Maul.
That's a shame.
They had the Hut with the eye, with the monocle.
Yeah. What a show the Clone Wars was, eh?
It's fantastic, but we have to talk about the Bad Batch.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Wait, you know what? I feel like we should clear this just so we have it on record. We both liked the Bad Batch, didn't we?
Oh yeah,
it was fine.
We're bitching about it a lot. It was perfectly watchable.
It was perfectly watchable. I
didn't dislike it.
Yeah, like there was lots of character moments I liked.
Like the thing with the Bad Batch is they're not insufferable. They're just kind of dull, right? You can watch them perfectly fine.
And because it is a short, like it's not an hour long each week, and if there are episodes where they tap into the wider world, like Ryloth or like Camino, or anything with Crosshair, frankly.
They go to Braca. That was fun. A little reference to Fallen Order.
Yes, they do. No big tentacle worm gouging monsters.
No, there was some monsters in the water, but not the big monster, which is very unfortunate.
We were hoping to see the big monster because that's prequel shit.
Yeah, because for those of you that didn't notice in the game, the entire planet of Braca has a giant monster living in it that they feed ship parts to, and then harvest its waste to make ship fuel. I think.
Oh, Fallen Order! What a game! Didn't care much for the characters, but the game was solid. Pretty much how I feel about the Bad Batch. People seem to really be responding to Tech. I don't quite get it. I like him more than I like Wrecker and Echo.
I guess it's because
people like his funny goggles.
I guess so. I guess it's because he's the least manly one, so he's the one that you can nurse and protect the most, if you're into that sort of thing.
And Omega's just not even a factor.
Do you think the other clones get offended that Omega always shouts for Hunter first?
Nah,
like,
he's the leader though. He's the leader. Don't want to call out Wrecker. I'm sure she did call out Wrecker before, because her and Wrecker had like their thing, but they got that weird chocolate popcorn thing.
Yeah, they eat space popcorn or whatever it is.
Yeah, I never quite understood it myself.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts for season 2. Obviously, they've got some sort of plans for Crosshair. I keep saying Crosshair because that's how they pronounce it. It's Crosshair.
It's Crosshair, like a
gun.
Crosshair. So. It's their accents, Kyle. We don't have those weird accents that the clones have. We have a Scottish accent.
Yes, Crosshair.
Crosshair.
I mean,
he's going to shoot you.
Throughout this season, I was convinced that he was going to die by the end of the season. And then he didn't, and it ended in a way where I feel like they're actually priming him for a redemption arc now. So, I guess we'll see.
I enjoyed all the character complexity with him. Like, they were like, Hunter summed up great. We don't have to be in the same side, but we want different things. It doesn't mean we have to be enemies or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful stuff, and they left them there and they went away, but surely they're both going to be in direct conflict with each other's ideals with guns later. All they do is need to avoid each other until one side wins.
You would think.
But that ain't going to happen because Crosshair's going to go back.
I love the detail that he removed his chip and he's still stuck with the Empire anyway. It makes it more interesting.
Yes. Was his chip... did he have it removed or was it blown off his head because he's got horrific scarring there?
I think maybe that might be part of it.
It looks like it must have been damaged in a previous mission.
When he accidentally burned himself with an engine because he's an idiot.
Yeah. How did he know that there was a chip in his head, though?
I mean, they were running experiments on him to increase the effectiveness of the chip in the first couple of episodes, if you remember.
I don't. Because surely, but if they were running experiments on him for the effectiveness of the chip, he never had his chip in the head in the first place, then they would know that. Wouldn't they go, oh shit, he doesn't have the chip in his head, he may not be loyal?
No, I think the implication was he had it removed after that.
But he said he had it removed years ago.
No, yeah, I said he had removed it some time ago. He didn't say years ago.
I thought he said years ago.
No, he just said a while ago.
Right. Okay, I was... see, it never made much sense to me. Like, he had his chip removed years ago, how I interpreted it. Somehow he knew there was a chip to have removed before Rex and Fives found out, and he just never said anything.
I think you interpreted that scene wrong, I'm afraid.
I must have interpreted that scene wrong. I mean, that makes it better, because the way I'd interpreted it didn't make much sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he had the chip out after Order 66, and he was just fine with it anyway. He didn't care. He was like, I never need the chip.
I mean,
I would have killed the Jedi.
part of it that makes it slightly less effective for me is that he's clearly an idiot, and it's very, very obvious that the Empire doesn't care about him. And the Bad Batch can see this clearly, but Crosshair is just, I mean, I can get that he's, like, committed to it or whatever.
He's a company man.
At some point you have to realise that they don't give a shit about you.
At some point, that'll be next season. Because he'll come back to the Empire disgraced. I wouldn't even be surprised if they took him out the
throw
elite
him in
black.
jail.
No, not even throw him in jail. I wouldn't be surprised if they just kick him out the black armor and they put him in regular stormtrooper armor or like regular white clone armor because stormtroopers.
I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in jail because the one surviving dark stormtrooper person did see him murder the rest of the squad.
I thought that they'd already died, and when that last remaining black elite stormtrooper person walked in and just saw him kind of almost look like he was being captured or something.
No, she saw him helping the Bad Batch fight off the droids.
That could just mean they were surrounded. I think he could talk about that unless that black stormtrooper actually saw him murder the other elite people.
Well, she did call up the Admiral and say he's turned rogue, so...
Did he? I thought he just said that he's
he's
a lost cause or something. I don't know. Because obviously the Admiral wouldn't really give a shit if he lived or died on that planet. Right, okay, well... No, okay, yeah, I guess. Because I actually just thought he was going to come back in disgrace, get chucked into white clone trooper armour, just become a reg, and that would just demean him further, and then he would be like cleaning toilets like Finn. And he would get really resentful. And then over time, he would then come and see the light, and he would be like another Agent Callus, and then he would be executed at some point, but be executed in redemption, I guess, because he can't live. That's story making 101. I know Callus lived, but he's done some bad things. He killed the civilians at the start of this season when he went back after when he was with the Bad Batch. They never done it.
That's true.
Like he done all the stuff. He's now got to be. He can either die a villain, or he can be redeemed but die in that. He's got to die. That's how you do stories. That's how you do stories. Unlike Callus, who didn't wipe out those people, he only thought he did. Crosshair killed these people.
I was convinced of that until the last couple of episodes. Now I'm not so sure that he will die. Well, in saying that, I think all of the Bad Batch are doomed, actually. So
you don't think they're going to show up in the Ahsoka show?
No, I think they're all going to die before the end of this show. They're going to fully Halo reach it, and they're all going to die.
Yeah, apart from Omega.
Yeah. But
who's she gonna go with?
Well, she's going to go her own way eventually, I guess.
No, she's the Cortana chip, and they're all Noble Team trying to get her to the Pillar of Bottom.
I mean, Hunter has to be the last one to go.
No, he's the Carter, and then it's just her and Tech.
Her and Echo.
Noble 6, the silent one. Yeah, exactly. Her and Echo, and then, yes, Echo hands her off to Rex, and then he goes into the Lone Wolf mission, and his helmet starts to crack up, and then he gets stabbed by... The Empire don't have swords, do they? An Inquisitor.
No, an
there
Inquisitor.
We go.
You get stabbed by all 7 Inquisitors.
He gets stabbed by the Grand Inquisitor, and he punches the Grand Inquisitor in the face. And then we get a line from Cortana. Fuck. Omega. Years later, looking at Omega's helmet, and it's like the New Republic touching down on what's the planet? Lothal,
sure.
Yeah, and then that's where they start off the adventure to go and find Ezra, and it's in live action. There we go. We've put Halo Reach into the Bad Batch.
How many seasons do you reckon this show's getting?
4.
Do you think it's going past season 2?
I think it has to go past season 2, or else it's an insult because people would compare it to Resistance. It needs to get at least 3. I think it will run 4.
Okay, I guess we'll see.
I think that Lucasfilm as an engine have enough faith in Filoni, and I think even if we're a bit lukewarm on it, the bottom line is we're still watching it.
I mean, first couple of seasons of Clone Wars are... in my memory, they're not good, and then I go and rewatch them. They're actually amazing. So maybe not. Maybe that's a bad comparison.
Yeah, well, unlike with Resistance, nobody was even watching that show.
Yes, Resistance was poorly marketed, and it had a strange art style, and no one was that keen on the sequel trilogy. There's
some really annoying people on Twitter that really come to bat for Resistance, and you know what? I'm saying annoying in a really demeaning way. I don't really mean that, because it's nice to like what you like, and it's nice to fight your corner. I certainly fight my corner for things that weren't popular in like TV and stuff. But they really bat for Resistance like it was something amazing and special. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared for it. I did watch the first season, and you know what? The ending of the first season was the only part where I sat up on my chair, and but it still wasn't enough to get me to go to season 2. It's all on Disney Plus, you know. I might one day.
Like, that's Twitter, though. You can't trust anyone on Twitter. Twitter is a den of crazy lions.
Oh, a den of crazy lions. You're definitely right. Twitter is. It's like it's a hospital for the mentally insane.
It's like a website that just attracts the worst possible aspects of humanity.
We're on it every day, ladies and gentlemen. But like this show, whether it's quality can be spoken to, the bottom line is me and you're still watching it, even if we think it's just a bit meh.
Yeah.
I think this show will run its course.
I got Disney Plus. May as well watch it.
May as well watch it. It's still going to be there for a while. Lucasfilm have faith in Filoni because the fandom at large really love Filoni. And that's still true. Maybe things will change in the next couple of years if the Bad Batch really didn't go good. They don't go good. If the Bad Batch... if the Bad Batch really doesn't go well, then maybe people will turn on him. But he's got so much goodwill in the fandom, and he's involved with Jon Favreau and The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. I think he's got some involvement in as well. I think the Bad Batch will be here for a while.
Okay, let's get back to our speculation, because that's all we've got. We've got 15 more minutes before we get to a full hour, Nathan. We can do this. I have faith in us. Is Omega Force sensitive? That's one of the main questions, isn't it?
Boy, I hope not.
I think they might go that direction, because they just have to make that gap between The Mandalorian and this show even less.
So, clones having the Force feels like such a Legends thing that I don't like it. Now, I know Snoke had the Force, but, when Rian Johnson...
Secret's only the Sith know, so...
When Rian Johnson made that choice, did he have the Force in The Force Awakens, even if it was implied he did?
He definitely had the Force in The Last Jedi.
I know that. I'm just trying to think whose decision it was to give him the Force. Because if he hadn't the Force Awakens, then it wasn't Rian Johnson's. When he used the Force, if he only used the Force for the first time in The Last Jedi, the plan was that he wasn't a clone.
Yeah, he wasn't a clone.
He wasn't a clone. Unless J.J. Abrams made it, then maybe he always was. Hello, Scott Rods.
Oh no, that's actually them coming home. Although it might still be Scott Rods, because I don't know if you've been watching recently. Dad did buy a new project.
Did he? I haven't watched in a while, I'm not going to lie. I've seen his stuff on the Facebook group. Your dad's found that announcements button, and he's been using it. I get notifications all the time. Scott Rod's made an announcement. Oh, really? Love your car shows.
Yes, he bought a new project. It's not a hot rod, actually. It's an old one of those like 1950s Lotus cars.
Interesting. Bugsy isn't even done yet.
Nope, but finishing Bugsy is going to be really expensive, so he's got another project instead.
Oh, great fun. Bet your mum loves having all that in the garage.
Well, my mum just got an electric Mini. That was the other video that went out recently.
I need to tune back into Scott Rods on YouTube.
You do. Yeah, I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Unless my mum's about to come in and rile up the dogs, which is a high possibility.
When Snoke used the Force, he wasn't a clone. And then when they made him a clone afterwards, like you say, Sith secrets only the Sith know, dark magic. I don't really think the Kaminoans given a Jango Fett clone the Force is it. It feels too... That feels too Legends to me in a way I can't quite express. And I don't...
You can get into the era of Luke Skywalker.
The Emperor, yeah, exactly.
Like
exactly. I don't want Rex or Echo or Fives or any of the Bad Batch or Omega to have the Force. There's something I like about them that's relatively grounded. Now I know the Bad Batch have already...
how non-Forcey the show is. I mean, they started with a couple of Jedi, but other than that, it's really non-Jedi.
I'm telling you, we're getting Inquisitors.
But why would we get Inquisitors without Omega being Force sensitive? That's why I think Omega will be Force sensitive, is so we can get cameos from the Grand Inquisitor, or maybe, I don't know, one of the ones from Fallen Order, just to be more fun.
I think you make a very good point, but to counter that, I think we can get Inquisitors that are being Force sensitive because they would meet up with Jedi.
I mean,
no one was Force sensitive, and oh wait, no, of course. Why? How was that the stupidest thing I was about to say? I was about to say no one was
Force sensitive in Rebels.
Yeah, they were just a group of folk. They were just a group of fellas, and no one had the Force. And then I was like, wait, 2 people had the Force. I was like, the Inquisitor showed up, and then it wasn't until Ahsoka showed up that anything happened, and I was like, no, that's not true. That's
How
not
could
even
you
remotely
forget about
true.
Kanan and Ezra?
How could I forget about Freddie Prinze Jr. and
How could you forget
what's
about
his
the
face?
space whales?
I've never forgot about the space whales. Never.
Okay, other things for season 2. Thrawn. What do you think chances of? I think chances of Thrawn in this show are high.
I don't, because when he shows up in Rebels, he's just come back from somewhere and he was promoted to Grand Admiral after the mission. Because that was, I think, the explanation for where he had been prior to Rebels. Like, where was he during the Clone Wars and stuff? He wasn't here. He was doing things.
He does stuff in the books, right?
Yes,
There's
he does.
Books set in this period.
I own 3 of them, I think, on Audible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's just... I would like to see him. I just think that they're going to try and do other things.
I got Thrawn on the brain. Thrawn just became my most popular video, so I'm all thrown up.
I think that they might try and avoid Thrawn. They might save him for the Ahsoka show. They might blue balls us, to pardon the pun.
This show loves its cameos, though. Like, we mentioned it before, but the Hera cameo works because it was actually part of the episodes. The Kanan cameo was so superfluous to the show.
It could have been any Jedi.
It would have been better as any other Jedi. The fact that it was Kanan was actually distracting.
I actually didn't find it was distracting. I only found it being Freddie Prinze Jr. was distracting. I quite enjoyed that it was Kanan.
James Vega, what are you doing here?
You're doing bits.
I'm
Kyle.
doing bits.
This is the podcast where Kyle does bits. Oh, God. James Vega. Jesus Christ. The most memorable Mass Effect 3 character. Or just the most memorable Mass Effect franchise character.
Oh, absolutely. He had his own movie. Did you know that?
You're kidding me.
It's an animated film. It's called Paragon Lost.
You're kidding me.
It's real. It's a real thing. You can look it up.
You're doing bits, aren't you? You're doing more bits.
He's voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr. in that as well. You know, in the game, he tells a story about how he chose collector data over the civilians or whatever.
Sure.
It's that story in a movie.
Paragon Lost sounds like a punny spoof of a Star Trek episode.
Well, it's Paragon because Paragon in Mass Effect.
Yes, I get it.
Get it?
I get
it's
it.
Very clever.
It's very, very clever. I clapped. Now, you didn't hear I muted the microphone, but I clapped. Wonderful. Wonderful. Bravo. Bravo. More. Jesus.
Speaking of, okay, that's another one. You remember the worst episode in the show where they go and fight some bugs in a cave?
This is Starship Troopers?
Yeah, Starship Troopers, the episode with Horny Boy who takes over Sid's Emporium or whatever.
Yes!
Episodes?
Yes, that was a bloody weird episode.
It was a weird and pointless episode, yeah.
Because
I think that one was actually set up for future stuff because they established that guy is like the son of a crime boss.
He's a plant.
He's a seed for future plot lines.
I bet his father, rather.
I think it was his mum, actually.
I thought, right, okay, well, that serves me right for prejudging.
His parent.
I think if it is his father, it will be Vision. Paul Bettany.
Vision?
Paul Bettany.
But he's a demon man.
No, he's in Star Wars Solo.
No, the guy was a demon man with horns. Paul Bettany was just a guy.
No, wasn't the guy like he looked like the fresh-faced punchy commando from that episode where he breaks Ventress out of jail?
I'm looking at him right now. He's a guy with horns. You remember the end? The Pikes cut off one of his horns.
Can you send me a picture of him? Can you copy his picture into Discord, please?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Jesus, Nathan, come on. You know what? I will say this episode, it's a mess, but it's a fun mess. I can tell you that much.
I wish it was Geonosians.
I like the Pikes.
I
just like the Pikes.
I like the Pikes, but now every time they show up, I'm like, oh, it's you guys again.
Do you remember in Clone Wars when they were selling poisonous juice to the Mandalorian schools? You remember that plotline?
I remember when they go to try and find Sifo Dyas and they speak to the Pikes and then they find out Tyrannus is betraying them and they're like, kill him. That was a fun bit.
There, I sent you the picture of Horny Boy in the Discord chat. You can clearly see he is a boy with horns.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was... I must have just been putting the face of that fella from that Clone Wars episode in my head. I thought he had, like, short, vaguishly blonde hair. It looked like a male Omega. I guess a male Omega would just be a clone trooper. But you remember the blonde Republic Commando guy from the Clone Wars that helps break Ventress out of jail?
I know who you're talking about. He gets stabbed by Ventress
He gets stabbed by Ventress at the end. I thought that was this guy.
It's a similar vibe, you know?
Similar vibe. So, okay, well, it's not Paul Bettany. Not Paul Bettany. Would have been nice.
It's going to be some horn lady.
Would have been
Crime
nice.
Boss.
Paul Bettany makes a non-dialogue appearance in the final episode of the Clone Wars.
I mean, do you think we'll get an Ahsoka in this show?
I arguably think that's more likely than Thrawn, because they'll want to prep her for her own show.
Like, Ashley, Eccleston? What's her name?
Eckstein, I think.
Eckstein. We'll get her back one last time before she's replaced by Rosario Dawson.
Forever.
Or they'll be really dickish about it and have Rosario Dawson voice her.
Oh, no, I don't think Filoni would do that. I don't think Filoni would do that at all. I think, however, that I wouldn't be so... Because it's weird. Ashley Eckstein is also the voice of Ahsoka in live action for The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, she is.
So it's very confusing as to who's the real voice.
Honestly, I kind of wish they dubbed over Rosario Dawson with Ashley Eckstein. I found her voice so distracting in Mandalorian.
Yes, I would agree, but I also think I was able to make the jump between animation and live action. I was able to make that jump myself. I
managed it eventually.
I just accepted that it's like when we first saw some of these, live action characters in animation. You just got to make the jump.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, I think we will see Boba Fett at some point, because they have to do something with the fact that Omega is the same as Boba Fett, right? They've got a whole Alpha and Omega thing going on.
Yeah, they do.
So, do you think they'll ever address the fact that Omega's a girl and that's weird? Do you think they'll ever touch on that at all?
No.
They just don't want to go there?
I don't think they want to go there. I don't particularly care either, I must say. There might very well be a good subset of people out there that do want them to go there. I don't really care. If they do, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to do a PC Gone Mad Twitter rant about it. I just don't really care. Like, I don't know why she's a girl. Like, yeah. Arguably that is a question to answer, because apparently she's also an unaltered Django clone. Like,
exactly.
I'm missing something here. They ain't going to touch trans stuff. They just ain't going to do it. It's not happening. No ifs, buts, whys, ups, downs, side to sides. They're not touching that. This will be the clip that you take for me in a future episode when they do go there. They
start season 2 with all of the trans stuff.
I personally have no reason to believe they're going to go there for lots of reasons. So I just don't think they're going to touch it. I think the weirdest thing about that character is going to be that she's going to be force sensitive, and that's something that in this episode I said I don't want to happen. But I don't think it's out of the realm of imagining they might do it. But I don't want it to happen. I
assume you're hearing all of the noises of a car being removed from a trailer. By the way,
hearing everything. Why is it? Yeah. Why is it still in a trailer?
Because it's just the chassis of a car, not an actual car. So it's on a trailer.
You must have a low crime neighborhood.
Yes. I mean, they literally drove it into the driveway 10 minutes ago. Okay.
Wait, he's just brought it back now.
Yes.
We're getting a live audio preview, ladies and gentlemen, of future Scott Rods. Is your dad recording the unloading?
Probably is. We've got a crossover in the makings here.
Crossover in the makings. This is like when two characters run past each other from two different shows.
I tell you what, audience, you know what? You can just deal with with all of the noise and shit, because that's just part of the episode now. And I'll just link the video that my dad makes in the description of this podcast, and then it's linked, you see.
Do it. We'll put a card up in the top right corner of the screen.
There's a card no, because then I have to get the exact timing on the card in this hour-long podcast.
Is that? I don't know.
I'll do it. It's right here. It's right now. You see it?
Look! It's right there.
It's right there. Our podcast doesn't have any visuals, but there's a card.
There's the card. We can see it. My mic overloaded there. I almost blew my eardrums out. I almost deafened myself.
More cameos.
This is our cameo. This is your dad is the Thrawn of the Name Not Included podcast.
It's true.
It's true.
It's so true. Do you think we'll see all of the rebels? I mean, I guess we can't really see. We'll see a baby Ezra and his parents.
We have seen two of them already.
We've seen 3. We've seen Chopper.
We saw
as well.
Chopper. We saw Chopper. I actually think seeing Zeb might be quite likely.
That's a good call.
If we see Sabine, she'll still be in the Imperial Academy, and it'll be with Crosshair, and it'll be like one episode.
I can see that too.
I don't think we'll ever see Ezra. We'll never see Ezra.
I think we might see Lothal, though. I think they might make a little trip to Lothal for whatever reason.
I could see that. I could see Lothal. Do you think it'll be really downtrodden, or do you think it'll still be relatively Republic-y? Because Lothal was always one of those places where it never kind of bought into the Empire like a lot of other places did.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say it's going to be perfect. We're going to see the old governor guy who's voiced by Clancy Brown. We're going to see that character.
Oh, when he's still governor?
Yes.
Before Thrawn kills him on a speeder bike?
Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, you're right. That's totally something they can do.
I don't know why they'll have some random ass mission on Lothal that has nothing to do, but they'll just be like, hey, you remember Lothal, don't you?
You're here to start Tarkin Town. You are here to give supplies to this governor who needs out. You're here to extract the governor.
Oh, there's a good cameo, Yularen. We might see a Yularen in his early days as head of the ICB or whatever it's called.
He's just got his brand new pressed white uniform.
Indeed,
but he doesn't have the white hair yet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's still going to have clones with him, or do you think he's going to buy into Stormtroopers?
He has the white hair at the end of Clone Wars.
Does he? I thought it was kind of greying.
Remember, he looks suddenly like 10 years older in the last season of Clone Wars.
I thought his hair was just greying. I thought he had colour in his hair in the Clone Wars, and in the last season it was greying, and then by the time he gets to Rebels, it's just white.
I must confess, I did miss his voiceover.
I miss his World War II reporter. Break out the war in the East. Who's going to win? Will our hero survive?
For that one episode, they'll bring it back.
Didn't they do that for that Rebels episode?
They did it for the first episode of this show, I think.
They did do it for the first episode of this show. Think they'll do it for the first episode of next season?
We've seen Gregor, but we also see Wolf, probably, right?
Oh, we're seeing Wolf. That's happening.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wolf and Wolf you learn.
If I remember, because Wolf, he kind of has like PTSD in Rebels, so we'll see the beginnings of that.
They kind of all do.
I mean, Gregor's just... I want to know why Gregor went Cookie. In Clone Wars, he wasn't Cookie. Why did he go Cookie?
Yeah, I really want them to explain where the crazy came from. Like, I thought, like, the crazy would be happening in the intervening, 15 years.
Yeah, I assumed living on a desert for 20 years made him Cookie.
Yeah.
But no, it just happened at some point.
Just sometime after he got his memory back, he just started losing his mind a little bit.
Teaching was just really hard on him, I guess.
I think that's the joke. That's how he went crazy. Being a teacher just didn't go well for him. I found it a bit annoying he didn't have his full armour on.
Yes.
I was like, put all your armour back on. Stop running around with like a really exposed neckline. And
I did enjoy that for no reason at all. The commandos in that episode were the commandos from Republic Commando.
Haven't they appeared in an episode before? Like
they
in
have
the rain,
appeared in episodes before, I think.
And in the rain for like 2 seconds, they were getting off a shuttle. I can't remember where.
Yes, I believe it's the episode where
is it with Fives?
They first introduce Savage, and he murders those 2 random Jedi, and that's them bringing the bodies back to the temple.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, people get really excited about that being the one from the Republic Command. They've never had a line of dialogue. I don't even think their names have been uttered.
They don't speak. It's purely visual.
It's purely visual. Like it doesn't even need to be the ones from the games. Yes, they are white armoured with yellow stripes. I don't think that really confirms anything, does it? Except maybe behind the scenes.
They have... Each of them has, like, a different, like, armour. It's very... I've seen the pictures. It is very clearly them. They all have their specific, like, armour coloration type details and stuff like that.
Right, okay. So. I haven't looked into it in detail. Okay, I'll take your word for it then.
Yeah.
I would like it if they'd done more with the Commandos. We've seen more Commandos in this show than we've ever seen in the rest of Star Wars canon.
I mean, it kind of seems like they're kind of discarding the regular clones, but they've realised the Commandos are still worth keeping around, is the impression I get.
We've seen no ARC Troopers.
Haven't seen any ARC Troopers, it's true.
Interesting. Because ARC Troopers kind of are like Republic Commandos on light.
I mean, they were originally established as, like, they protect Camino, but then they just kind of discarded that idea. Just had the ARC Troopers just go around.
Yeah, because when Echo... It was Fives an ARC Trooper as well.
Yeah, Echo and Fives, they got promoted together.
When they became ARC Troopers, that was like a big deal. They were like the best at the best. But then the show also kind of had Republic Commandos but never acknowledged them. And then Republic Commandos came around with Gregor and stuff. And okay, so what are ARC Troopers?
They're just like a lesser tier, yeah.
Lesser tier, but they're above regs.
I believe in Battlefront 2, the ARC troopers cost less than the commandos, don't they?
Well, that is
So
a
there
clear
you go.
hierarchy there.
Exactly.
Is Cody showing up in this show?
I can see them doing. They might actually kill Cody in this show.
I could see it. I could see it. Think, oh, they have to break out Wolf from jail, and Cody's the guard.
Does Rex have to kill Cody? That would be some drama.
Boy, I hope so. That'd be good telly.
I will probably see. We haven't seen R2 and 3PO on this show yet. That's tradition.
Anthony Daniels is sitting by the phone, like with his fist clenched, just waiting to answer.
For the best character in all of media to return once again.
He's waiting for the man that changed the world to show back up on screen. He's gonna do it in like his gold glittery C-3PO blazer, and he's gonna have like a whole behind the scenes featurette of the return of Anthony Daniels into the Bad Batch, and he's gonna say it was wonderful and I can't believe they haven't called me sooner.
Yeah, they'll do the exact same episode as they did in Rebels, where it's R2 and 3PO and they have to return to Jimmy Smits. What's his name?
Jimmy Smits or Professor Oregano, Senator
Oregano.
Senator Organa.
Yeah, we're going to see him as well, because they have to get into the very, very early Rebel Alliance.
That's all Jimmy Smits does now. It's just cameo in Star Wars projects for 3 seconds. Yes. Like I still, when I haven't watched Rogue One in a couple of years now, but whenever I see him in Rogue One, I'm like, oh my god, it's you. It's nice to see you, but bye.
We'll see a Mon Mothma. We'll see a baby Leia, or like a toddler Leia.
I thought that earlier, but I never said anything because I kind of think that won't happen because she's too young to be useful. Will they go to Alderaan, because these shows have never showed Alderaan really.
Oh, that would be a good opportunity, wouldn't it? If they go to Alderaan.
The most we've seen of Alderaan is like at the end of Revenge of the Sith, where they go back, where Jimmy Smits goes back there.
Yes. We've seen Onderon, which for years confused me because Onderon is a different planet from Alderaan.
They sound totally different, Kyle. Gosh.
Onderon is where Forrest Whitaker is from, who did show up in this show. Do you remember that? He showed up in the first episode.
He did show up in the first episodes, and he looked like he did in the Clone Wars.
He did. His hair was all wild. That guy has gone through more design changes than anyone else in Star Wars.
I think he visibly looked recognisable enough to be the same person from the Clone Wars. I don't think he looked that different, except his hair went a bit wild, but that was only to maybe feed into where he was going to end up in Rogue One. Though they did change his hair in Rogue One, because in the trailers he has different hair in Rogue One than he does in the finished film of Rogue One. He's got wild hair, then he's got shaven head, or it's the other way around.
It's so funny to me that this character keeps showing up. Saw Gerrera, that's his name. Saw Gerrera. I found it. He keeps showing up, and I've never cared about him. He showed up in this show. He showed up in Clone Wars. He showed up in Rebels. He showed up in Fallen Order. He showed up in Rogue One. And I've never cared about him.
In Rebels,
he just keeps showing up.
In Rebels, it was a bigger deal because they got Forrest Whitaker in, and at the time that was when Rogue One was coming out. So it was like, oh my god, big name. I'm sure did Ben Mendelsohn play Krennic in Rebels?
Did Krennic show up in Rebels? I don't remember that.
I feel like he did.
I don't remember Krennic showing up in Rebels.
See, now you're saying it, I cannot picture the character.
I can't picture him being animated.
No, neither can I, but I'm sure Ben Mendelsohn showed up.
Don't remember Ben Mendelsohn showing up.
What am I thinking of? Because I remember Forrest Whitaker is voicing his character in animation from the live action movies, and that was a big deal, and I'm sure Ben Mendelsohn done a thing too.
But he didn't voice him in this. In this, it was the original guy who voiced him in Clone Wars.
From the Clone Wars, which arguably a better voice actor.
Yes, I would argue so as well. Oh, come on, we need more cameos. Let's just do this for two. Let's just vamp for 2 hours, Nathan. I'm having fun.
No, Kel, we got to wrap this up. Have you got anything else you really need to say before we wrap?
No. We don't have a good narrative climax for this. We need to wrap up our themes here.
Wrap up our themes. The Republic is over, and so is this podcast. Let's stop.
This is going to be a nightmare to edit.